Welcome to The Explainer. Now, if you're studying for your WSET Level 3, Argentina can feel like a real puzzle, a country just full of contradictions. So today we are going to uncork all the essential knowledge you need, really zeroing in on what makes this wine region so incredibly unique.
And really, it all comes down to this one question. How is world-class wine made in a desert? Because Argentina's top wine regions are basically high-altitude deserts. So how on earth do they produce these wines that are famous for being fresh and balanced? Well, the secret, as you're about to see, isn't about moving south for cooler weather, it's about climbing up.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to build our understanding from the ground up. We'll start with the absolute key to everything, altitude. Then we'll dive into the unique challenges and solutions in the vineyard, meet the signature grapes that just thrive here, and finally, take a quick tour of the key regions you absolutely have to know.
First things first, to get your head around Argentinian wine, you have to understand one massive, defining feature on the map, the Andes Mountains. It is, without a doubt, the single most important factor that influences pretty much everything that happens in the vineyard.
The phrase you've got to remember for your exam is wines with altitude. You see, unlike in Europe where you might go further from the equator to find cool climates, in Argentina you just go up. For every 150 meters you climb, the temperature drops by about 1 degree Celsius. And that is the critical cooling effect. It slows everything down, letting the grapes develop these really complex flavors while holding on to that all-important acidity.
So now let's dig into how the Andes are both a blessing and, well, a bit of a curse. It's pretty fascinating, because they are the source of the biggest challenge for growing grapes here, but they're also the ultimate solution.
This slide just perfectly captures that paradox of the Andes. On one hand, these massive mountains create a rain shadow. They literally block all the moist air coming from the Pacific, which creates a desert. But on the other hand, that same altitude provides the solution, a massive diurnal range. You know, that's the difference between those hot, sunny days that build up sugar and flavor and the intensely cold nights that lock in acidity and freshness. That temperature swing, that right there is the secret sauce to Argentina's balanced wines.
And to really put that rain shadow effect into context, just look at this number. Mendoza, which is the heart of Argentinian wine, gets only about 200 millimeters of rain a year. I mean, for comparison, that's less than many parts of the Sahara Desert. It means growing grapes here would be completely impossible without irrigation.
And this number brilliantly shows us the solution. To fight back against the heat of being so close to the equator, vineyards are pushed up to these incredible heights. Up in the northern province of Salta, vineyards can reach over 3,000 meters. We're talking more than 10,000 feet. That makes them some of the highest commercial vineyards on the entire planet.
So you have this environment of extremes. How do growers actually pull it off? Let's take a look at the clever techniques they've developed to battle three major threats in the vineyard.
So the big three are intense sunshine, which can literally give the grapes a sunburn, severe drought, thanks to that crazy lack of rain, and maybe the most dramatic of all, these destructive summer hailstorms. They are a regular and really serious hazard, especially around Mendoza.
The solution to drought is, of course, irrigation, all fed by the snowmelt coming down from the Andes. Now, the traditional method you see on the left was flood irrigation, which, used a ton of water. Today, most quality-focused producers have switched to modern drip irrigation, which you see on the right. It's way more water efficient and gives growers this incredible, precise control over how much water each individual vine is getting.
Now, what about the sun? Well, the traditional Argentinian answer is the Parral system, and you're looking at it right here. It's this high pergola trellis that's just brilliant. It solves two problems at once. First, it lifts the grapes way up, away from the intense heat that radiates off the ground. And second, its leafy canopy acts like a natural umbrella, preventing sunburn. This is absolutely critical for keeping those delicate floral aromas in their signature white grape, Torrontés.
So while the Parral system is the traditional way, a lot of modern vineyards, especially for black grapes like Malbec, now use what's called vertical shoot positioning, or VSP. That's what you see on the right. But here's the thing. No matter which system they use, the goal is exactly the same: careful canopy management. It's this delicate balancing act. You want just enough dappled sunlight to ripen the grapes, but you need to use the leaves to provide just enough shade to protect them from that brutal afternoon sun.
And what about that terrifying hail? These storms can be super localized but just devastating. They can wipe out an entire year's crop in minutes. The most direct solution is to put up these expensive nets over the vineyard. But the more traditional insurance policy? Well, that's to own different vineyard plots in different areas.
You're spreading the risk so that if one site gets hammered by hail, you don't lose absolutely everything.
Okay, so we've got this extreme environment. High altitude, intense sun, almost no rain. What kind of grapes can actually thrive here? Let's meet the varieties that have become totally synonymous with Argentina.
As this chart makes crystal clear, Malbec is the undisputed king. It accounts for almost a quarter of all the vines planted in the country. But for the exam, it is crucial that you also know the other key players here. Bonarda, which is the country's second most planted red grape, and of course, the signature aromatic white, Torrontés.
So let's quickly run through their profiles. Malbec is the star, no question. It produces these deeply colored, full-bodied reds with flavors of blackberry and plum and these beautiful, ripe, velvety tannins. Next up is Bonarda. It's often been the workhorse grape for simple, fruity red wines, but some top producers are now making really concentrated, serious styles. And finally, you've got Torrontés, Argentina's signature aromatic white. Just think intense floral notes like geranium and rose with stone fruit flavors and a crisp finish, especially when it comes from the super high altitudes of Salta.
All right, for our final section, let's put this all together. We're going to do a quick fly-through of the 3 most important geographical areas that you absolutely need to know for your exam, and see how the climate, the grapes, and all those techniques come together.
This table right here, this is your ultimate cheat sheet for the exam. Way up in the far north, you have Salta, which is synonymous with extreme altitude and that aromatic Torrontés. In the center, you have the giant region of Mendoza. And in Mendoza, you need to know 2 key subregions, the traditional Luján de Cuya, which is famous for powerful, concentrated old vine Malbec, and the more modern high-altitude Uco Valley, known for more elegant, fresher styles of Malbec and other grapes. And then finally, way down south in Patagonia, it's latitude, not altitude, that gives it a cool climate, making it perfect for delicate grapes like Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
So the key takeaway here is this. Argentinian wine is defined by viticulture at the extremes. Winemakers are always pushing the boundaries, climbing higher into the Andes, venturing further south into Patagonia, all of it in a search for that perfect balance between sun and coolness. This constant exploration is what makes it one of the most dynamic wine regions in the world to study. And as they keep exploring, it leaves us with a really fascinating question. What new styles will emerge next? Thanks for joining this explainer.